Welcome to Visions and Images, American Photographers on Photography. Today we'll be talking to Garry Winogrand. Garry Winogrand is one of the most important photographers at work in America today. His sophisticated snapshot aesthetic, if you will, pictures celebrate ordinary events and transform them with precise timing and framing into astute visual commentaries on modern life. It's especially nice to welcome you here, Garry, at the new school. You started out, of course, supporting yourself by commercial work.
Yeah, sure.
Advertising, photography, and such things.
Yeah, magazine work, industrial work, you know, hired gun, more or less.
Why did you decide to give that all up?
I don't know how, you know, it was, I enjoyed it until I stopped, in a way, you know. I had a good time. I mean, you could travel and all kinds of, you know, get around. I can't really explain why, you know. I just didn't want to do it anymore.
It was just several years ago.
It was 1969 when I got out of it, when I stopped. Yeah.
And then you turned to teaching, as well as your own
work?
Well,
it was strange, because the phone rang, and a teaching job showed up. That was interesting to try. And I always did my own work. I was always working, you know, doing, well, like the animals, and a lot of public relations was done while I was doing commercial work at the same time, you know.
When you decided to photograph the effect of the media on events, and you studied, I guess, ritual public events that were planned very often for the benefit of those that were recording them.
Of course, yeah.
What did you find about that period, and what were you trying to tell us in your photographs?
I don't think anything happens without the press, in other words, one way or the other. I think it's all done for it, you know. You saw it start really with Martin Luther King in Birmingham. He did the bus thing, and no, I don't think anything in that that followed would have happened if the press didn't pay attention to that thing, you know. I just trying to, as far as from my end of it, photographing, well, I'm interested in pictures, frankly. You know, I went to events, and it would have been very easy to illustrate that idea about the relationship of the press to the thing, you know. But I felt like from my end, I should deal with the thing itself, which is the event. I pretty much functioned like the media itself, you know.
But you were the media then.
Well, I was one of them, yeah, absolutely. But, you know, maybe a little slyer sometimes.
How so?
Well, the people in the press were at times useful to me also, you know.
In those events, are there any of them, in your opinion, that are ever called together just for fun or for the sheer relief of the participants? Or are they always done for the benefit of promoting an idea, a cause, a person, or a product?
I mean, you go to these big openings in the museums and stuff, and people go to have a good time, but the thing has another purpose in a way, you know.
What's the larger purpose?
Well, there's always got, in the case of museums, it's got to do with money, you know, collect, you know, there's people who donate and stuff like that, and a certain kind of, I believe certain kind of interest has to be demonstrated, you know, before people, just like they want coming to the shows. It's the same thing.
So there's a constituency for that culture.
Yeah, sure. There's, absolutely, I think so, you know. It's not evil. There's nothing evil about it.
The term street photography and your name have been synonymous for
Yeah.
quite some time, but the streets, of course, are not the only place where you've worked over the last 25 years or so. You've worked in zoos, in aquariums, Metropolitan Museum of Art openings, rodeos in Texas. There must be some common thread that runs through all of your work. What would you describe that to be?
No, I'm not going to get into that. I think that those kind of distinctions, I think it's so stupid. I can't believe, street photographer, like, what are they have to have a whole list of titles, I think, if you're going to do that.
How would you prefer to describe yourself?
I'm a photographer, a still photographer. That's it.
If you don't like the reference, and I can understand why, of street photographer, how do you respond to that now tiresome phrase, snapshot aesthetic?
I knew that was coming. That's another stupidity. The people who use the term, they're referring to photographs where they believe that they're loosely organized, whatever you want to call it, whatever terms you like, or casually made. Now, the fact is, that snapshot they're talking about the family album picture, which is one of the most precisely pictures. They don't even know the meaning of the term they're using. It's an extremely precisely made photograph. Everybody's 15 feet away, and they smile, and the sun is over the shoulder. That's when the picture is taken. It's always one of the most carefully made photographs that ever happened. They're just dumb. They misunderstand this idea.
So what is really important
is the photograph.
Is how you organize complex situations or material to make a picture.
In the end, the picture, right. Not how I do anything. In the end, maybe the language would be how the fact of putting four edges around a collection of information or facts transforms them. Mm-hmm. The photograph is not what was photographed, it's something else.
Does it really not matter what kind of equipment you use?
Oh, well, I know what I like to use myself, but I use Leicas, but when I look at the photograph, I don't ask the photograph questions. Mine or anybody else's, how it was. I'm interested, if it's interesting. The only time I've ever dealt with that kind of thing is when I'm teaching, and there's reasons then to discuss it, till you're talking to people who are interested in how. But when I look at photographs, I couldn't care less how, you see.
What do you look for?
I look at a photograph. What's going on, what's happening in a sense photographically. If it's interesting, I try to understand why.
Let's talk about one of your projects, and I'm thinking about the animals. There, like in so much of your work, juxtapositions and gestures that usually go unnoticed for most of us are very significant in these photographs, and you find them worthy of recording. How did you come to do a project? Here you were, a city boy, spending so much time in zoos and so enamored of animals.
Well,
or is it animals that interest you so much?
Well, zoos are always in cities, right off the bat, no?
Yes.
Where else can they afford them? At least that. No, I was, when I was raised in New York and I was a kid, I used to go to the zoo. I always liked the zoo. And
did you live close to the zoo?
Well, I grew up within walking distance of the Bronx Zoo. And then when my first two children were young, I used to take them to the zoo. Of course, I think they're always interesting. They're interesting. And I'd make pictures, actually of them mostly. But the animals came about in a funny way because I made a few shots. If you saw those contact sheets, they're mostly of the kids and maybe a few shots of just playing, my playing. And at some point, I realized something was going on in some of those pictures, and so then I worked at it. Yeah, then I went to work at that specifically. That's all, At some point, I realized it made sense as a book. So that's what happened.
I've often wondered how a photographer who takes tens of thousands, and by now it may even be hundreds of thousands of photographs, how one keeps any track, any archive of the material. How do you know what you have?
Badly. That's all I can say. I mean,
really?
It's very, very clumsy, you know. At times, there's been times it's just impossible to find a negative or whatever. But no, it's just very. I'm a one-man operation, and so things get messed up. You know.
So there really isn't an accurate.
I don't have a filing system worth very much.
But don't you think that's important to your work?
Well, maybe, I'm sure it is, but I can't do anything about it. I mean, it's hopeless, you know. I mean, I've given up. I mean, it's just you go through a certain kind of drudgery every time you got. I mean, I've got certain things grouped by now, but there's a drudgery in finding, and there's always stuff missing, you know.
You sold your very first works to the Museum of Modern Art. How is it that Edward Steichen came to know your work?
Well, that's what happened. I had an agent when he was doing A Family of Man, and one day I go up to the office, and I think Wayne Miller who assisted him with A Family of Man, was up there and pulled out a bunch of pictures. See, so I had a message: take these pictures, call Steichen, make an appointment, and take these pictures up to him. That's how I met him. And
did they buy any?
yeah, they bought some, you know, in terms of that.
How many did they buy? This is about 1960, but you do remember how much they paid for them?
$10 each. I mean, it was, you know, nobody sold prints then. It didn't mean anything. You know what I mean? In terms of your living, it was a joke.
How do you explain the current rise of interest in photography?
Oh, I'm sure some of it has to do with taxes, tax shelter things. There's all kinds of reasons. There's people who like photography. There's people who are having trouble with worrying about what's going to happen with the dollar. They want to get anything that seems hard. You know what I mean? I don't know. I mean, I think it's got to do with taxes.
But how about all those young people who...
Which young people?
Who are so interested in photography.
They don't buy pictures. I mean,
they just look at them and take them.
They don't have money to buy pictures. I really think... I don't really have any faith in anybody enjoying photographs, particularly, really, you know, in a large enough sense to matter. I think it's all about... got to do with finances on one side, and then there's another kind of, there are people who are socially ambitious.
When I was taking your photograph before, in my well-intended, whimsical way, I tilted the camera in an attempt to make my own Winogrand. From what I understand, that's not the way one does it. What is the meaning of the horizontal tilted frame that you often use, and is it tilted?
It isn't tilted, no. You use one edge, or you use a vertical edge as the point of reference instead of the horizontal edge. Or there's a photograph that's not, I don't think there's anything in there. I have a picture of a beggar, and there's an arm coming in to the frame from the side. And the arm is parallel to the horizontal edge, and it makes it work. Mm-hmm. It's all games, you know, but keeps it interesting to play.
There is another photograph that has an arm coming in from that edge, and in almost Sistine Chapel fashion, that arm and then that hand is feeding the trunk of an elephant.
Oh, you mean the cover of that book, of the animals? This thing. You know what I mean?
Yes, it is the cover photograph.
Yeah, that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about now. It's just not... it doesn't... you know, I carry an arm around with me. You know, I wouldn't be caught dead without that arm. You know?
Several years ago, a student did ask you a question that has been widely repeated, and the question went something like, what is it in a picture that makes it interesting instead of dead? And you replied with a telling statement about what photography is all about. And you said you didn't know what something would look like in a photograph until it has been photographed.
there are things I photograph because I'm interested in those things. But in the end, you know what I'm saying there? I mean, I said something earlier tonight. I said the photograph isn't what was photographed, it's something else, about transformation and everything.
Well, what is it about a photograph that makes it alive or dead?
It's got to do with the contention between content and form, invariably. You know, which is what's responsible for its energies, its tensions, it's being interesting or not. You know, there are photographs that function just to give you information. I mean, I never saw a pyramid. I've seen photographs. I know what a pyramid or a sphinx looks like. You know, there's pictures that do that. It's a different kind of interest that satisfies. But most photographs are of life, you know, whether it's of what goes on in the world, and that's boring generally. Life is banal, you know. Let's say an artist deals with banality. I don't care what the discipline is.
And how do you find the mystery in the banal?
Well, that's what's interesting. I mean, there is a transformation, you see, by just putting 4 edges around it. You get a chance. It changes it.
Has the Museum of Modern Art been very influential in your own career?
In what way?
Well, the very fact that you have been exhibited there and so celebrated by that leading curator.
I don't know. I mean, it doesn't have anything to do with what I do. It probably has made some difference in my sales. I wouldn't be surprised, you know. But you have to ask other people.
How much time do you spend in your darkroom? Do you develop your own work?
I mean, I develop my own film, and I work in spurts. I mean, I pile it up, you know, and
How far behind are you?
Let's not get into that. It's uncomfortable.
Do you count it in years?
Oh, there's 2 ways I'm behind. I mean, I'm behind in developing film, and then in terms of the printing, you know, it's not easily measurable. I'm a joke. It's the way I am. I mean, it's just the way I work, and I've never felt overwhelmed. You know what I mean? I know it gets done.
Are there any of your photographs that you would describe as being key in the development and evolution of your work?
It's called stock photographs. It was done at the Fort Worth Livestock Show and Rodeo. And the first time I shot, I was commissioned by the Fort Worth Art Museum for a show. There was a show to, you know, you shoot 1 year and the show was next year when the rodeo was in town. And it was a big group show. I was the photographer. They had a TV guy, you know, videotape guy, and some sculptors, Red Grooms, Rauschenberg, Terry Allen. There was a whole bunch of guys, you know. And I think I hung, I forget, 60 or so pictures in the show. And at the opening, somebody asked me if I was going to make a book out of it, you see. And I knew I wouldn't. I mean, if I was going to make a book, I'd want to shoot more. You know, you do a book, you want it to be a crackerjack of a book. And so anyway, it gave me the idea. So 2 years later, the next year, I went and did some more shooting, and then the following year, I did some more shooting. And that was it. You know, so I probably shot a total of 14 days, something like that, maybe, give or take.
The image of the cowboy as hero is somewhat deflated. Was that your intent?
No, I don't have any intent. I'm taking pictures.
Well, what did you see?
My intention is to make interesting photographs. That's it, in the end. But I got to deal with, you know, I don't make it up. It's not, let's say it's a world I never made. That's what was there to deal with.
But there is a question of selection, what one photographs and one doesn't, if only by reflex.
Well, I think if you take a good look at the book, it's basically, I'd say largely, it's a gallery of portraits.
There was another record that you made of one of your interests, at least at the time, and I'm referring to that book on women. What are the circumstances of that collection?
The same thing, you know. I mean, I'm still compulsive.
You're still interested in it.
Oh, sure. I mean, it's funny. I've always compulsively photographed women, and I still do. I didn't get, I may very well do Son of Women Are Beautiful. The thing that was interesting about doing that was the difficulty for me of dealing with the pictures. You know, where, let's say the woman is attractive. Is it an interesting picture, or is it the woman? I never, and I had a lot of headaches with that, you know, which was interesting. And I don't think I always got it straight. No, I don't think I always got it straight, you know, either. I think it's an interesting book, but I don't think it's as good as the other books I've done.
Well, throughout your work there, it's said that there is a narrative voice and indeed an active one. Do you agree with that analysis?
I don't completely understand that. I mean, only in the sense that I generally deal with something happening. So let's say what's out there's a narrative, you see. And I think the pictures often enough play with that idea. I think often enough the picture plays with the question of what actually is happening. Almost like the way puns function, you know.
You have described, of course, contemporary America in so much of the work that you've done. Do you find any recurring themes or any iconography that either engages your attention or our attention should be called to?
Well, you said it before, women in pictures. I don't know.
What made you move to Los Angeles?
I want to photograph them.
So that it may not even be a permanent location?
Oh, no, I don't think so. I'll come back to New York.
When you feel that you have, at least for the time, photographed as extensively as you'd like to, what are you taking pictures?
I said I'm all over the place.
Really?
I mean, literally, yeah. And I think I'll start focusing in more on the entertainment business, but I have been doing some of that already. There's all kinds of monkey business, but I'm all over the place, literally.
When you say the entertainment business, do you mean
movies?
Things that relate to movies?
Yeah, movies. Los Angeles has interested me a long time. I mean, when I was in Texas for 5 years, the same thing. I wanted to photograph there. And the only way you can do it is live there. I mean, and likewise. So I'm living in Los Angeles for a couple of years. I've been a gypsy for quite a while. It'll come to an end.
Where are you headed next?
No, I'm going to come back to New York. I'm a New Yorker, you know. As a matter of fact, the more I'm in places like Texas and California, the more I know I'm a New Yorker. You know, I have no confusions.
We've talked about the influence of people like Walker Evans and Cartier-Bresson.
Don't forget Robert Frank.
And Robert Frank.
My attitude to a lot of things is different than Evans. I think.
Can you be specific? And how would you contrast your work to theirs?
Let's say I have a different kind of respect for the things of the world than he does. I'd say it that way. I have a different kind of seriousness about it, but which might be misunderstood. I think I'm being funny or whatever. It's like the things he deals with, the things you see that he photographs, describe a certain kind of exquisite taste. And let's say the things I photograph may describe a lack of that. You know what I mean? He was like a very good shopper. I'm saying a funny.
And how would you contrast yourself to that good shopper?
I'm less interested in. I think the problem is different. It's almost like I think he would, in that sense, I would think about him and Atget, because the things that were photographed were often beautiful, and that's a hell of a problem to photograph something that's beautiful to start with. You see. That the photograph should be more interesting or more beautiful than what was photographed, you know. And I deal with much more mundane, I think, objects at least. I deal with it all. I mean, I don't keep away from the other thing, but I don't avoid, garbage.
What advice would you give in general to a young photographer? What should they be doing?
Well, they should be. The problem is, the primary problem is to learn to be your own toughest critic. You have to pay attention to intelligent work and work at the same time. You see, I mean, you got to bounce what you do off better work. It's a matter of working.
Do you photograph every day?
Just about, yeah. Mm-hmm.
But you don't develop every day?
Hell no. No way. No.
John Zarkovsky called you the central photographer of your generation. It's very high praise.
Right, it is.
But also an enormous burden.
No problem at all.
None at all?
No. You know, what has it got to do with working? I mean, when I'm photographing, I mean, I don't have that kind of nonsense running around in my head. I'm photographing. It doesn't get, no, it's irrelevant in the end, you know. No, it doesn't mean a thing. You know, it's not going to make me do better work or worse work, as I can see it now.
Do you ever expect your life to unfold the way it has?
No, I mean, it's ridiculous. I don't know, I mean, I had no idea what would, you know, how can you know?
What did you have in mind?
Surviving. That's all I have in mind right now. I mean, that's all you know. That's
flourishing too.
That's unexpected. I mean, but yeah, I'm a survivor. That's the way I understand it.
Mm-hmm. And what are you going to do next? Do you have any exhibitions or books planned?
No, nothing cooking, right? You know, nothing. Not at the moment. Just shooting. You know, it's a lot of work organizing something, whether it's a show or a book, and I don't want to do it every day.
You have enormous curiosity that propels you from one project to the other. I guess all over California.
Well, I don't think of it as projects. It's all I'm doing is photographing. I don't really think of it as projects.
Was there anything that was ever particularly difficult for you?
No, I mean, the only thing difficult is reloading when things are happening. I mean, you know, can you get it done fast enough? There's nothing difficult.
But you obviously have some, you are the fastest camera around.
Well, I don't know if I'm the fastest. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter.
Is that important to your work? The fact that you can organize complex material and compose and snap it so quickly?
Yeah, but it's not that difficult. It's, no, I don't, there's nothing difficult about it. It would be difficult if I was carrying something heavy or something, you know. I carry Leicas and there's nothing difficult. You can't do it that way. No. You know what I mean? It's not difficult. I'm not operating a shovel and getting tired, you know. No, it's not. I can't talk about it that way.
You said before you sometimes think of yourself as a mechanic. Do you also think of yourself as an artist?
I probably am. I don't think about it either. But, you know, I mean, if I have to think, yeah, I guess so. But, yeah, that's...
And how would you like us to think of you and your work?
I have no ideas. No ideas at all on the subject. You know, it's all about, let me work, that's all. Yeah, that's what it gets down to. That's it.
Thank you, Garry Winogrand, for being part of today's program. I'm Barbara Lee Diamondstein for Visions and Images, American Photographers on Photography.